Garage podcast is brought to you by The Red Onion, the Bay Area's finest hamburgers, located at 11900 San Pablo Avenue in El Chorrito. Tell them Twilight Garage sent you.
Twilighters, thank you so much. As always, dear friend, most qualified of co-hosts, running it down here on the Brothership Connection, Mr. Casey Fields.
Happy New Year, y'all. Man, great to be back here with you. Hope you all had a really nice Christmas and Hanukkah. We're just happy to be back here in the garage to talk a little Manson, to talk a little 1960s counterculture, what have you.
Get your zuzus out, man. We're going to take a trip, baby. We're going to go down a road I didn't like. A little road known as Susan Atkins. That girl, to me, was a really rough piece of work. I didn't really care for her. And I've got artwork and stuff to back my opinions up. But, you know, we've been doing some studying. And, man, that last Christmas episode that y'all joined us on, thank you so much, by the way. Wow. Man, poor little Susan, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Her burnt up little Bible, isn't it? Like Psalms or what?
Yeah.
One of the really serious ones is all burnt up. Like our poor little Bible with a hole in it. But yeah, I really think that it's time for us to delve into it. Now, you know a bit more about Susan because you were kind of always, you know, looking into her scene. For me, I think her real personality that we're aware of began when things weren't going that well for her. Her mother started taking sick when she was about 11. She was diagnosed with cancer and she was gone within a couple of years. And really, really hard time for a young girl, especially to lose her mother.
I went all the way back with Susan to when she was born down in Los Angeles, and back to she moved up to the Bay Area, and at the age of 3, she saw her neighbor die at a heart attack on the way to church.
Right. He was like a Sunday school teacher or was the one who used to take her to church.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. It was her babysitter's father. That's right. And he just had like an aneurysm, which is incredibly painful. I saw a friend die that way in my early 20s. Wow. You just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So there's definitely people out there that know more about Susan than I do, that are in this community. My good friend, Mike Ketcher, another gentleman that goes by the name, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden.
Catch as catch can. That's how I call him. Catch as catch can.
What's the guy that talks to Lynn?
Oh,
little man.
Oh, Glutz.
Yes.
Yeah. Little Thomas
Glutz.
Yeah, with the photographs.
Yeah, he's
How did he come up?
He's the pro when it comes to the Susan photographs.
Sure. Oh,
he's got his own website where he's touched him up and he's put sunglasses on her. And
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah,
I
pretty
didn't
funny.
realize I know he used the name, but I didn't know he's so Susan specific. But yeah, he'll really come through with the photographs. That guy knows what's going on. It's really clutch. He's been very generous with us here at Twilight. We want to thank you very much, Thomas. You really came through with some really nice red photographs we intend to use, and we're going to be taking care of you pretty soon. We're going to have some stickers and some fun things coming out, some gift packs, and just good times to keep things rolling and keep everyone excited. But man, Susan, like I say, you know, it was pretty easy to bag on her. And, you know, I had my favorite girls and, you know, she was the one who snitched. And there was all these reasons for me to feel like I didn't like her. And she reminded me of, you know, trashy broads I'd met in my own past, you know. And I didn't have a lot of sympathy for her. And thinking about her being locked up with Leslie and Patty.
Mm,
I mean, Patty, the most committed physically of all the Manson girls.
yep.
Just, man, you want to talk about going in? Patty
She was there for
Krenwinkel,
both nights, August 8th and 9th and 10th, you know?
bro. Patricia Krenwinkel did more than put in work. The number she did on a man was incredible. What she did to Lino LaBianca the next night, great Lord, just went for it. And then you think about what was said about Lino LaBianca later, like, oh, well, there's a guy who's not going to be sending his kids off to war. It's like,
Yeah, we'll have to give Pat her own show one of these days.
mercy,
for sure.
mercy. So there she is, hardcore of hardcore. And then you've got the flapping gums
Mhm.
of one Susan Atkins that was the one. You think about how much longer they would have been at large
Mhm.
if Susan Atkins hadn't opened her mouth at Sybil Brand.
Yeah, I think she's one of the main keys to Bugliosi's case, right? Her testimony before the grand jury, also the tapes that she recorded with her attorneys that Bugs ended up listening to, which helped him build that case.
Absolutely.
I guess second to Linda Kasabian, I would say that Susan Atkins is probably the next reason why they got convicted.
Yeah, she was the
Yeah.
most damaging. They would have been at large, I feel, much longer had she not said anything, because it would have been really hard to put that together. And can you imagine if they didn't go to jail?
Yeah.
Like how chilling that would have been for people like Melcher.
Yeah, we
Like-
already know Hollywood was pretty terrified, right? Buying guns, buying dogs. Nobody felt safe.
Well, and then they figured out who it was, and everyone had dealings with Charlie. You know, that's what I'm finding out from everybody I talked to who was there. They tell me, David, everyone knew us. Everyone had contact with us. And then the people outside of the family said the same thing. Oh, those folks, yeah, all the time they were through here. We would see them sometimes out doing things, but they would come through here all the time. And that's how it was for me in Ridgecrest when I met Cappy's kids. They would want to come through, jam, party, meaning, hey, break out the instruments. We want to get high. Who can we have sex with? What the fuck's going on out here? Just normal teenage shit,
Yeah.
But when they would come through, I can imagine it was like with the original Manson kids, where you're like, hey, they're coming through. We're gonna have some fucking fun. But hey guys, the little things you might want to tuck away, the baubles, because they have a different view on material possessions,
Mhm.
what they mean, what they should mean, and how they're possessed and redistributed. The whole thing that drives me crazy talking to Lynn is just these crazy giant gestures Charlie would make of generosity, just theatrical displays. And she was like, David, the more he gave away, it seemed the more came to us. It's like you couldn't keep anything for giving it away, and you couldn't give it away fast enough because you were just going to have something else.
Mm.
And these are things that people of our age, we couldn't conceive of that. I certainly couldn't. Well, I'm going to give somebody some vehicles and
Yeah.
like, wow.
Everyone nowadays is looking for a tax write-off or you put some money in their pocket.
Absolutely. They're not going to give you the free grand piano. Trade it for a VW bus, right? Get you back on the road. Because a lot of that happened in San Jose where Susan
there's
is
a lot of
from.
things about Susan that people don't really know about that. She lived with Ella Jo Bailey in San Francisco during the Summer of Love, 1967.
And Ella Jo Bailey was
Yeah.
there right up until the murder of Gary Hinman.
Mm-hmm.
When she and her lover bounced, they took a pickup truck and were going to ostensibly go into town and just do normal shit, maybe do some laundry or something. And they just kept trucking.
Yeah. And so this place that they lived at on Lion Street, not too far from the 8 Ashbury, they lived in this house that was broken up into 5 apartments. And in one of the apartments, Janis Joplin lived. And I know come February, Hollywood's putting out a big Janis Joplin movie. And so there's a good chance that location might be featured in the film. Now, about 3 months ago, Nicholas Schreck was working on his documentary in San Francisco, and him and I met up, and we were kind of checking out some of the places that Charlie and the family spent time at. We went to Cole Street. We walked up and down the Haight, and we went to Bobby Beausoleil's house that he lived with Kenneth Anger. But one of the locations that Nick hadn't been to before that we checked out was this house where Ella Jo Bailey and Susan lived at, Janis Joplin's old place.
Right.
And there was a kind lady that happened to live at the property, and she saw us with a cameraman set up filming the outside of her home. And she kind of asked what we were doing. And next thing you know, she let us in, and we were able to go inside and check out the inside of this home. We didn't go into any of the individual apartments, but we had access to the staircase, walked up to. Susan lived in apartment number 5, right above Janis. Janis lived in apartment number 3. So actually you can find, if you look on Google, search Janis Joplin's driver's license, and you'll see that address, Lion Street in apartment 3. Yeah, so just kind of interesting that this was a period right before those girls met Charlie and Lynn and Mary. Somehow Charlie and Mary, Lynn found their way to this address here on Lion Street and just started partying. And the next thing you know, they asked Ella Jo Bailey and Susan Atkins if they wanted to join them on their trip down to LA in the magic bus.
And there it was. But everything I've heard about Ella is that she was a lot of fun, real bouncy, cool chick with curly hair, and just was a joy to be around. And these girls really had some serious sister-wife shit happening. There was a lot of love. And what has always been relayed to me, especially from Lynn, was there was no need for jealousy, because you want the person you love to experience everything they want to experience, so that they're 100% of everything they can be. If you're making choices for them, then they're not going to flourish. So her feeling was, the more love, the more people, the more excitement, the more expression there could be, and then everyone could be their best. And she just felt that that's, at least what Charlie was wanting in the moment, and had absolutely no problems with it.
And that fits into what you were saying before about this culture of sharing, right? They shared everything.
Absolutely. And it was done out of true brotherly and sisterly love. We need to always look at our language and our semantics in reading these things and going back in time. Love has become a marketed, cliche, almost dirty term. It's really corny. And when you think about the true essence of the meaning of the word, when you love those around you, why would you want the person to be less than happy or comfortable in the moment? You're not going to be inconsiderate and be like, oh, can I get you a drink? Would you like to sit down? Like, these are the things you do for the ones you love. And that's very important for both people involved. It's a dynamic that both of these people need.
And to come what next month, we're going to come up on, Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And here we are in, January now. And we got, different word, we're talking about love. And
Yes.
we only have that one word basically in our English language.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Greeks and others have multiple words, right? That really encapsulate different forms of love, whether it be philo or agape, these are different aspects. And I think that those different types of love were exhibited in the family in many different ways.
On all these different
Yeah,
levels. And
amongst
it's-
brothers and sisters and lovers and everything.
And so that type of true communal sharing was the goal of a lot of people. And I think, interestingly enough, from what I've heard, there was real good moments of it. And hey, man, if you have something that good, why not go for it? Right. I think is the way they were feeling, because people are like, how could you dive so deeply into sex, drugs, debauchery, and eventually murder? Right?
Yeah. And this is what Alan Rose was highlighting in his paper. We talked about that a couple episodes ago, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he wrote this paper on sociology, academic work on group marriage communes, and I don't normally think of them like that. I think of them more as a just normal commune,
Right.
or a family, I don't really think of it as much as some kind of polygamous relationship. No, I think it's more just a bunch of free thinking people doing their thing amongst each other, enjoying each other.
Well, that's why I was hoping that Alan would come on the program, and it was kind of confusing at first because he's used different names. And for the life of me as a man, I'll never understand altering one's name. Rose, Ross, what is it? You know what I mean? For me, my name is David Paul Rogerson. I'm the same person I've been. You can get a hold of me. If you need to talk to me, it's me. All the things, yes, I did them. Get a hold of me. We'll talk about it. These people want to change names and jump around. I didn't realize initially he was Alan Ross.
Yeah.
A cult expert. Like Rose and Ross are two different people. And I just found that very interesting. But I wanted him to come on and talk to us because I find it very, very interesting and telling that these papers weren't even prepared potentially till after the murder.
Mm-hmm.
And then they weren't published. It was an Indiana Medical Journal or
Mhm.
something. So they were published in a way that it's fishy. It's 25 years later. You're in the middle of the country. You think about the type of academia there in Michigan, they're going to be very excited to receive that.
And who was paying for the research?
Exactly.
That's always the question, right?
Thank you. Had he done the research in Los Angeles? Would anyone cared? You know what I'm saying? So he got himself set up. He pulled this paper off. I'd like to hear more about it because I don't want to misquote anyone, especially Lynn. But I had asked her about the paper in regards to Tom O'Neill's book. Now she said, wait a minute, which paper? And I said, well, it was one of those published later, but there was a gentleman who basically says he embedded himself with y'all for a period of time, the ranch.
And prior to that, he worked at the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic.
And that's what I said. And that's where Tom O'Neill begins to feel that that's when the CIA connection was really solidified, was at the Haight-Ashbury Clinic with David Smith and all those other players allegedly in the book. So we were talking about a bunch of different topics. But at one point, she said that didn't happen. So I'm not clear if by that he meant the study didn't happen, that Alan Rose wasn't a part of the trip, or what exactly the
Hopefully
clarification was.
we'll
But
get
it was
clarification on that at some point.
it was
hopefully.
a negative across the board, basically, that the feeling was that wasn't a
Mhm.
real thing.
Yeah.
So however it came about, whether it was after the fact or it never happened,
Mhm.
there's some definite question about it. And
So getting back to Susan, the reason that we brought this up is because she was one of the first that really adopted this ideology, right? Of being a part of this family that she always wanted, she about sharing, about she just really bought into who Charlie was and
from the
what he
first
was saying
moment
to
when
her. Yeah.
she heard the guitar,
Yeah.
remember she went up to the door of the apartment, every hair on her body stood up. She opens the door and heard music and immediately was transported, she said. And wow, if you've ever been in love, I mean, that
Mhm.
was a really, really hearty, realistic description of the process. I remember the first time I read the book a few years ago, I liked that passage. I related to it. And yeah, I think she was maybe, like you say, the first kind of quote unquote true believer who
Mhm.
put stock in all this thing. I mean, she was one of the first people to like pick up and move.
What Charlie said to her impacted the way that she saw herself. And I think that's a significant part. He showed her herself through his own eyes, and which it helped her self-esteem,
Yes.
her self-value,
Well said.
all of these things. Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of what we're learning about this whole, what is called the Manson ethos. And that's what it is. And again, we have to scuff our language palette now because he didn't do anything, is what they're saying and what I've experienced. No one tells you anything. You are in good company
Mm.
of people who are kind, observant, and will share with you. So you'll get feedback and then you feel certain ways, or you'll look at somebody or you'll be around them and I become self-conscious
Mhm.
and it makes me reflect, right? Like, what am I doing? What's going on? Is this appropriate? I have an idea. Next thought. Is it a good idea? Right?
Mhm.
So you're going through these mental motions, and it is a good way to become a better person who's more focused, better balanced, stronger, and better to serve his brothers. Because someone doesn't come to you and say, "Get on up out of that chair. I'm Charlie Manson. You got to be this kind of person." What Charlie seemed to do is acknowledge you,
Mhm.
which is very powerful.
Yeah.
When someone actually sees you and acknowledges you as an adult, a lot of anxiety dissipates, a lot of ill feelings, a lot of the kind of pain we all carry, like Susan's pain over losing her mother, for example.
Almost every single one of those kids had some kind of pain, whether it be through family or events and circumstances that they went through. Yeah. And you could say some people demonize him, right, in that aspect, and say, well, he found that vulnerability and dug in on it. No, I think that he tried to benefit a lot of these young kids, right, and make their lives better. There's a former athlete and announcer named Jalen Rose, and he has this philosophy that I love, where he talks about there are four categories of people in all of our lives. He says there's plus, minus, multiply, and divide. He says there's people that are a plus in your life and they're adding to your life. All they're trying to do is just give to you generosity. They're not expecting anything in return. They're just a plus. Then there's negative people, right? They're just trying to take away from your happiness, take away from your life. Then you have people that are dividers. They're trying to become this object of chaos in your life and just ruin everything good that you're a part of. And then you have the multipliers. And here's where it's important to me is these multipliers, these people, they not just add to your life, but they're increasing your life at such a level that you're able to pass that gift on to others. You're able to multiply that blessing and reach one person can reach several people. Jesus did this,
Amplification.
right?
Right.
It was the disciples, and through the disciples, he reached the world. I mean, you could say it's, if you believe that. So I think that in what he was doing, he was multiplying a lot of these kids' lives.
Well,
Yeah.
they had been so hurt, a lot of them, that when you become vulnerable, and much is made of them eating acid, but when you eat acid, it opens your breath up. You become more present. And oftentimes, these vulnerabilities open up, and you realize you've had to carry armor, you've had to wear a mask, you've had to do a lot of things to protect yourself, even in your own family, to survive. The ones who love you the most could have provided the most torment to you and the most hurt. And we look at Sandy, we look at some of these other people. You look at Leslie's mother, the forced abortion. Like, oh my God, just what that would do to a girl. And as a father and a person who loves children, I can tell you, you want to turn kids on. That in and of itself is the reward. You know, you see the person get it, it's a turn on. They're better for it. They make the group better. They're of service because they have energy and they're happy and they want to be part of the group and serve the group. So you've made, you say you've multiplied it. So like what's happened for me personally in like, just like meeting Lynn has been this calm that came over me because she helped me reflect myself. She didn't do anything. She didn't even reflect me, Holmes. She allowed me to do all of the work. So I possess my gains.
Yeah.
I did that. She helped.
She's not taking any credit.
Nope.
She's actually cheerleading you for your growth.
But yeah, let me pick up the ball. Let me do all the work. Let me do everything. And then I'm like, this is it, right? This feels good. I'm doing it, right? And then she's over there like, yep, that's it. And like, are you kidding me? That's the Manson secret? That you make a safe environment for someone to feel open enough to reveal their own character to themselves. Because who do we wear the mask around the most? Right? What's the first thing you do when you get in the mirror? Right? Try to make it better. You know, you're not like, ugh. You know, first thing you do is like, you know, you got a bat in the belfry, right? Yeah. Ooh, something.
Yeah. So that's really what a healthy relationship is, right? Two people that are trying to make each other better versions of themselves.
That's what she saw in Charlie. This woman, Susan Atkins, was carrying around a steamer truck full of pain, tragedy, abuse, rape, all kinds of terrible shit had happened to her. And she hears this freedom. She hears this music. This man tells her she's beautiful. You're fine as you are. Don't go changing it. It's all groovy. You're fine. Hey, this apartment, you're going to stay here or we're going to take off, but you can come in if you feel like it, like whatever. Wow.
Yeah.
What that feels like.
I'll be real transparent real quick and I won't go too long on this, but there's someone that is close that I was really close to that's out there right now, and she may be watching, but somebody that I consider a best friend and one of the most important people in my life, who did invest in my life and did make me a better person, and somebody that the entire length of our relationship, I just wanted to invest everything I could into her and making her better, making her believe in herself even more. And unfortunately, when we talk about those people, there's also people that are in there for the division,
Yeah, the
right?
division,
And so the
the
person that
chaos.
was the divider came in and kind of drove a wedge between her and I's relationship. Myself also made some mistakes, and none intentional, but I'm just kind of bummed because it was a relationship that I did value and I do
Of course.
value. And yeah, and so I see through looking at things like this in Susan's story, and
Oh
I think
man, when
how,
she
yeah.
fucked up, and then you hear her want to come back, and you're
Mhm.
just, she's like, yeah, blue, snap, nip. And then, dude, she was with Patty and Leslie all those years. And what did they have to read? Helter Skelter and every other book that just detailed her big mouth that got them hauled out of the desert. Like, you think about how they felt in the desert, far and away
Mhm.
and free. And then I just keep coming back to that picture of Lynn in the, she's handcuffed behind her back, sitting out in the desert.
Mhm.
And it's like, it looked like a Taliban photo. You know what I mean? And then there's her in the photo that got used, getting circulated around the internet. Even our friend Lisa Gallagher, aka H. Allegra Lansing, join me, won't you? Stole my photo.
Dude,
Dude, my
you're
wedding,
gonna get me in trouble,
my
man, for
wedding ring's in
doxing her.
there. My wedding ring's in the photo. Oh, come on, dude. That girl is harmless. She's got some cankles and good production, but she doesn't really know the case.
She's a very sweet person.
Yeah,
though.
but she's not going anywhere. She refuses to invest in the case. She wants to get paid. She does these really nice little programs, but there's no meat on the bone, sister. Sorry. But we're back to Susan, who the woman dressed as. Come on, Allegra, you dressed as Susan for Halloween, bro. Like, I think she even had a mustache, didn't she?
Yeah, I think she did.
Cold-blooded. But anyway, so then we wind up at this place where Susan is down. But then Susan's going to be Susan because Susan's a rebel. And then,
And clashed hard, I heard, with Charlie at times,
yeah.
right? Talked back a lot and wanted to be the leader.
Oh, yeah.
Thought that she could run things.
She would make decisions and fuck up and then have drug deals go bad because she thought she could do like texts and go burn people and they weren't going to do anything about it.
I think I just read recently about some Catherine Scher or someone was saying how she took Susan took a beating because she was bossing people around,
Yeah.
and really treating people like shit around Spawn Ranch.
She got
Charlie
lumped
got
up.
word of it and said, like, who are you? No, like, know your place, you know?
Yeah, because there was a big dynamic. And these people were truly experiencing and living in love. But I mean, it doesn't mean they weren't fucking assholes. You know, Grogan, right? We're over here laughing earlier, Twilighters, about the time I schwacked a kid's car out in front of the house with a shovel a bunch of times and jumped on his windshield, really showed him who's boss. I'm landed gentry, people. I am the establishment. Some ethnic kid in his shitty little car trying to act up. Well, he got shut down, right? Fuck you, kid. You're an asshole. But it doesn't mean, at home that he doesn't take care of his grandma. That he isn't a good kid on other things, that there wasn't love and good things happening at the ranch. We're just hearing, of course, all the bad shit.
Yeah. She was a work in progress, as we all are, right? And I see a much different Susan in the mid 70s and going forward, right? I think when she got real serious about her faith, and I see a change in her. Some people think it was fake. You totally
Man, I
entitled to
did.
that.
I hated all that. I didn't
Yeah.
like that. But I will say something. I never met Susan Atkins, but I do know Christian Hosoi on an acquaintanceship level. We understand who we are.
Tell
And
him who he is.
Well, Christian Asoy is probably one of the most legendary, epic professional skateboarders of all times. His big reign was in the mid to late 80s, but definitely the most powerful, most
One of the
stylish,
first pool skaters.
big time stylish skater. But no, I mean that was his mentors were the Dogtown crew, and he grew up being mentored by all those guys, including my personal mentor and friend Shogo Kubo. But the great Christian Asoy, when I met him the first time to really have more than just a passing hello or meet him at a skate session, was I interviewed him for my first film, Pray For Me, the Jason Jesse story. And we were down in Orange County, and I was filming him there at the Black Label skateboard offices. And I've got to tell you something. Jailhouse Christian conversions, such as Tex Watson, Susan
Bruce
Atkins,
Davis.
Bruce, I don't like it. I don't like it. I met Christian Asoy after prison with God in his heart and Jennifer, his wife, on his side. I mean,
Real deal.
Yep. I'd met him quite a few times before. I'd partied with him, skated with him, done a bunch of stuff, got a bunch of photographs with him and Jay Adams and me and a bunch of old Z boys over the years, different sessions over many, many years. All those years later, no, it was legit. Christian loves the Lord with all of his heart. He's become a very sincere minister. He's had plenty of time for scandal, for relapse, for all kinds of bad behavior. And let me tell you something. Soy has really shown some love. So it makes me wonder. I don't know if
you read her,
one of those.
if you ever read like her parole documents, it'll give you a whole list of what she did, and just daily, every day she was doing something of service for her fellow inmates. So I do think it was pretty legit. Now I know that's hard for a lot of the people that knew her during that period of the late 60s, right?
She was apparently a real, self-centered little girl.
Yeah.
Understandably so. But, we look at that and we look at the ability to be of service. And that's, for me, it's really hard to see Patricia Krenwinkel basically held as a political prisoner. I mean, her physical actions were incredibly brutal. We're not going to excuse
the last female member still in prison.
The longest held woman in California. It's just incredible. But there's a lot of weight there. And I know it's carried by her sisters in prison and out. I know those that loved her at the ranch still carry that weight, knowing that she's in. I know it affects them. It's been referred to as a weight that is carried. And you think about what can and cannot be said that could potentially hurt Patty and the people that are out. You think about, are we ever going to get the truth? And what's the closest thing to the truth?
And that's part of where Susan Atkins has muddied their waters, and she's made finding the truth really difficult in this whole thing.
I think that was a lot of my hard time with her, was her recanting of testimonies, her reversal of her statements. It's like I say, my name is my name. I did everything I did as a man. I'll stand here and take my lumps, whatever they are. But I'm not going to change my name. I'm not going to change my testimony. I said what I said. I fucking meant it.
So rest in peace, Susan Atkins.
Rough.
I pray that you got the grace of God and that you're doing well in heaven now. But
man,
rough, brutal. I understand also from the victim's family's point of view that she was a monster.
Vitriol, and just having to read the savagery, the just intense, merciless hatred and bile that was spewed in these victims' last moments, and just this callous cackling and all that.
I know for me personally, going back to as a child, I'm talking about like 5, 6 years old.
Sure.
My introduction to seeing this case on the news, right, being shown, it was Susan Atkins walking down that prison hallway
Every time.
singing the song, right, and her just freaking me out. I hadn't seen any pictures of the murder scene or anything, but she to me was scarier than Charlie Manson or
absolutely.
anybody else in this whole thing.
And then once she'd carved the axe, it was fresh meat. Remember, it was all like
Yep.
bloody and shitty.
And then as a teenager and a college student, I thought she was the prettiest one. You know, I only knew of a couple girls at that time. And then it wasn't until years later when I got deeper into this case that my opinion
You and
changed.
Mike Catcher, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I'm, okay, anyway. As a strong Cappy man. Okay. Like that's
we all have our favorites. Ruth Ann Morehouse here.
Well, when I see the pictures of Cappy, I get a little jolt. And you just think about, like, really, like, as a man in the world. I mean, come on, dude. Who is the ultimate wifey? Like, bro, they make her out to be all these like really bad things. But if you think about what the brothers call ride or die, like the ultimate down lady.
That's Lynn to me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Your ultimate wife. Like, you couldn't get a finer partner. Like, just forget it. Like, just you look at the palette of companionship that was there with all those people. And it was, it was easier to forgive Susan, I suppose. And like I say, when Lynn says such nice things about her and that are very forgiving, it really makes me think about the child that we all are inside still, and our tenderness, and how a lot of that is unrequited. We don't ever get that innocence back, and we don't ever seem to have it link back up until there's children in your life. That's when you're able to touch your childhood again and maybe be good.
So for fun, why don't you guys write in the chat your favorite person in this case? It could be somebody from the family, it could be a victim, or it could be some other character that actually was a real life person in this case.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorites happened to be Karate Dave.
We, sir, are going to have a very kick-ass episode on Karate Dave. He got mentioned, I think, even by our buddy Allegra, and in the new book Rise, who we're going to have that author on here soon enough, but got mentioned, and I think that's all very fine. But thank you so much.
We wish you guys a happy 2025, happy new year.
And we want you, again, to re-examine these characters. Let's look at the child within each of us and have some mercy and have some love, and think about being around these people in the present time. We love you very much. Enjoy this new year. Let's go out and do something beautiful. Let's be kind to each other and know we love you very much. Twilighters, are you with me? Can I get a